to learn to talk about them openly. I believe that here in America, your most important ideological, cultural, metaphysical asset is the First Amendment. If you don't celebrate it, you will go down. And this is what I try to do. I would like to let you now, Rabbi Shapiro, take over, and I will get back to it. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Gilad. I haven't been in a movie theater for over 50 years. The last time I was in a movie theater, my mother brought me to hear and see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in Radio City Music Hall. It was about a half a century ago, and I'm just enthralled. This is what the inside of a movie theater looks like. It's just like its reputation, you know? And I want to thank Gilad and Tom and the people for bringing me here, because otherwise I never would have been here. This is a real cool place, you know? They have like these chairs going up like that diagonally. It's very interesting. And I also want to, before I start, I want to thank Mateo, Lauren, and Curtis for being the most wonderful hosts. And even though I gave them a hard time, especially Lauren, I apologize for that. I want to thank them for taking care of me. They're really the most wonderful staff that you can imagine. And I also want to thank the Mossad agent that's sitting in the audience over here. Yes, I did notice you. And what Gilad said, I'm going to comment on it a little. I'm going to try to explain my understanding of what he means. And basically, there's a lot of confusion. There's confusion, he mentioned, as to what a Jew is, what Judaism is, what Jewishness is. And that's really the core of the problem. When I say Jew, and when Gilad says Jew, and when somebody in the audience here says Jew, we may mean three completely different things. And then when you speak about what Jews are and how they act and how they behave, that's where the confusion happens. I mean, the word F-16 means something different to a fighter pilot than it does to a photographer. And if they talk about if F-16 is a good tool for the nighttime, it's good to, one can say yes and one can say no, and they're really talking around each other because they don't know what they're talking about. When Gilad says he did 200 gigs this year, so that's great. If my wife tells me she did 200 gigs, I'm taking away her cell phone. Okay, it means we need a new data plan. When Gilad says he loves bop, and a 12-year-old girl says she loves bop, he's talking about music, she's talking about a magazine. Now, can you imagine this 12-year-old girl arguing with Gilad about when the post-bop period started? Gilad says, well, it's the mid-1960s. And she's saying, what, are you crazy? The magazine was printing monthly until June 2014. And she's saying that he really doesn't know what he's talking about, he's stupid. And he's saying that she's just a dumb little kid. And you know what? They're both right, because they're using two different definitions of post-bop, right? It's the same thing when you say Jew. When I say Jew and when somebody else says Jew, and Jews are racist, or Jews are not racist, and the Talmud even. When Gilad talks about the Talmud, and when I talk about the Talmud, or when someone speaks about the Bible and I speak about the Bible, we mean completely different things. And because of this, that's where all the confusion happens. I'm an ultra-Orthodox Jew, and that's why I haven't been in a movie theater for 50 years. And to me, Judaism, being a Jew, means one thing. Judaism is not a culture, chicken soup. I met Gilad the first time in a kosher deli on Broadway, and he sits down and he says, first thing he says is, opens the menu and he says, what's the most Jewish food? So first thing I said, there's no such thing as Jewish food, because Judaism is not an ethnicity, but if you want to know which food Jews would probably eat most, order the sushi. Being Jewish is not an ethnicity. Being Jewish is not a culture. Being Jewish is not even a blood family. You can convert to Judaism. You can't convert to a blood family. You cannot convert to a race. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is. In particular, specifically, in the year 2448 after creation, God came to Moses and the Jews on Mount Sinai and gave them the Torah. No, I was wrong. That's not true. God came to a group of random people who were not a nation at all. They were not Jews, and gave them the Torah. Because they got the Torah, they also received with it a mission to fulfill God's 613 commandments in this world. The reason they got it was because God was and still is willing to give it to anybody who's willing to accept it. Those people who were there were willing to accept this job. When I give you a job, I'm also presumably giving you the tools to get the job done. God then created the Jewish people. It's not that there was a Jewish nation called the Jewish people who created the religion. No. The religion created the Jewish people. The definition of a Jewish person is somebody who is transformed by receiving the Torah. You could receive the Torah on Mount Sinai like the Jewish nation did then, or our tradition tells us that the souls of many people who are not yet born will also receive the Torah on Mount Sinai. God ensured that those people will be born. When they're born, they will have Jewish mothers. They also receive the Torah on Mount Sinai. Or, if you weren't there, neither in soul or in body, you can accept the Torah now, and you're one of the Jewish people as well. The Torah makes the Jewish people. Had God not given us the Torah, it's not that we would be the Jewish people without a Torah. Rather, we would not be the Jewish people. Had God given the Torah to another group of people, had someone else accepted it, they would be the Jewish people. Now, you don't have to accept this story that I said, but that's what religions are about. You don't have to accept my religion. But without the Torah, without Judaism, there are no Jewish people. If a person doesn't believe in this narrative that I just said, he doesn't believe that God gave the Torah to the Jews on Mount Sinai, and you don't believe that people were transformed by the Torah, then you don't believe in the Jewish people. There is no other definition of Jewish people except for that, those that accepted the Torah. Now, people may identify themselves as Jews, as Gilad mentioned, but that's a homonym. That's a homonym. When I say Jew and when someone else says Jew, nobody copyrighted the name. Anyone can call themselves a Jew. Fine, no problem. But let's understand, it's like when I say gigs and Gilad says gigs. When I say bop and when Gilad says bop. When a fighter pilot says F-16 and a photographer says F-16. It's two completely different things. Now, I may believe that if someone had a Jewish mother, even if he doesn't accept the religion, their soul was on Mount Sinai. And I could say that they're Jewish and they're obligated to fulfill the Torah. But if that person doesn't believe what I just said, and that's his choice, there's a free world, then he doesn't believe that my definition of Jewish applies to him. This is the definition of Jewishness that the Jewish people, the only people that identified as Jewish, held for thousands of years until the emancipation, with a couple of quirky exceptions, perhaps like Benedict Spinoza. It's a historical question. But in general, that is the definition of Jewishness that the Jewish people have.